Pleasure-seeking aristocrat Don Giovanni lives a life of debauchery, conquering women across Europe by the dozen and abandoning each just as swiftly. But when one seduction comes at a new cost, murder, it changes everything. Have consequences finally caught up with him? Will he finally get not just what he wants, but what he deserves? E.T.A. Hoffmann called it the opera of all operas. Gounod hailed it as a work without blemish, of uninterrupted perfection, while Flaubert declared that, alongside Hamlet and the sea, Don Giovanni was one of the three greatest things ever created. But in a post-Me Too world, an era in which we're holding power and its abusers to account, rewriting the book on gender politics, can we still allow ourselves to fall under the spell of art's legendary seducer? Even with Mozart writing his chat-up lines, does he still have the power to beguile us as once he did? Don Giovanni is an opera of conflicts and collisions, unspeakable acts set to ravishing music, broad comedy brushing shoulders with the subtlest psychological drama, real emotions triggered by deceit and illusion. So how does a director begin to reconcile that, to plot a course through this ambiguous masterpiece that preserves its anarchic spirit and its provocations without betraying the values of a new age? Mariam Clément, director of Glyndebourne's new staging, believes passionately in a work she still feels has plenty to say to today's audiences. Confident she can find an approach that compromises neither the work itself nor her own feminist convictions. Rising opera director Isabelle Kettel is less convinced, still struggling to find a way into a work whose music may be timeless, but whose politics and morality seem increasingly like an uncomfortable anachronism.
Hi. Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah. Hi, Mariam. Nice to meet you.
Hello. Oh, we've got a lovely day for it, don't we?
Beautiful.
So Isabelle, you've come to Don Giovanni with a certain amount of conflict. What is it that's giving you pause with this piece?
Yeah. For me, obviously, we all know that the music is astonishingly good. A lot of people talk about how complex it is and how ambiguous it is. But for me, one of the central things is that we are giving a lot of stage time to exploring, I guess, the interiority and the humanity of someone who, right from the start, is a rapist and a murderer. I mean, it's an obvious critique, but I think it's a good one to start with. I think if I went to it or if I staged it and then I brought some friends who don't know anything about opera and who aren't necessarily going to be like, well, it's Don Giovanni, so we must give it the time of day, they might just come and be like, why am I watching another story about a kind of Casanova who also within the music is designed to be very charming? And I would sort of rather a new opera be written probably about, that maybe starts with the same thing, but it's called Donna Anna, and she's not just a sort of one-dimensional person, and we actually think about that.
Well, I agree on a lot of it.
Yeah.
The problem is, I think if you say that, you could say that about probably, 95% of the repertoire we do in opera.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
I mean, it is a problem we have with the genre in the first place.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree with you that we should do more new operas.
Yeah.
That's definitely very important in the general balance of what we're saying within the opera genre. But you could say, either I just don't do these pieces anymore, or I try and deal with them. The problem is, then you realise it's opera, then you realise it's also literature, and you realise it's painting, sculpture. It's basically, most of our culture until a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It's even become more of a question for me now that I have a daughter, and she asked me, so the next opera you're doing, what's the story? And I said, well, it's about let me think about how to tell you that story. And they're all problematic.
Yeah.
But I think the other option is to take these pieces, because they're part of what we are and what we've become and where we are right now, and try and deal with them, reread them, rethink them, deconstruct them, and reconstruct them. And I think I'll give them that credit, that if they're really good works of art, they will let themselves.
Yeah, they can withstand it.
They can definitely withstand it. What's also the tricky thing with Giovanni is that on the one hand, you want to say it's all gendered.
Yeah.
and Giovanni is, you know, the epitome of the male, you know,
Yeah.
toxic masculinity,
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
which he is. But he also stands for something else, which I think is in a way strangely not gendered, because
Yeah.
I think Don Giovanni is also very much about a community. It's about someone breaking the rules. So there is something transgressive about Don Giovanni also that I think is worth exploring.
The earlier versions of Don Giovanni, where he's the adventurer, he's the free spirit, that the
yeah.
women sort of come later, don't they?
Absolutely.
19th
I mean, the
century.
17th century in the Molière Don Giovanni, it's also about, you know, his relationship to religion, to faith, to disturbing the social order.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking particularly of US culture, American culture, and although it obviously exists in lots of places, but the kind of the beat poet kind of time, and this idea of the freedom and the pushing against society. But to me, that in itself
It's
is
always
very
very
toxic
male.
and masculine. And even things like, you could say, even, you know, Trumpian rhetoric, it's all about pushing against us. And it is, I don't think you can actually separate that sort of like, in the entitlement of saying, oh, I just want to break down society and push against it, and
Consequence free.
consequence for, yeah. And it's a very interesting point how you could think about things in this that are human rather than gendered.
Well, I think we've come through the 19th century to glorify the Don Giovanni figure. I'm not sure that's how he was thought of by Mozart and Da Ponte. He does get
Yeah, I have.
punished the hard way,
Yeah.
and so he should be. I think the story I'm going to tell is not really Don Giovanni's story. It's Leporello's story. And Leporello, in a way, is to me a man, you know, the modern cis straight man, who doesn't know which master he should serve.
Yeah.
But he wants to quit. He keeps wanting to quit, Leporello.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
fed up with it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know where to go. He knows what he's losing. He doesn't really know what he's
Yes.
winning.
What's the
Yeah.
alternative?
What's the alternative? And it's tricky. And he wants to get rid of it, and it's not easy. And it's easy to be lured back because, you know, who would give up power, women, money?
Yeah.
And that's how Don
totally.
Giovanni gets him back. But to me, there is an alternative model in the piece, and that's Don Ottavio. That's also something I grew up with. Don Ottavio, the loser, the
Yeah,
wimp.
the sort of boring husband.
Boring.
Yeah, which is like, yeah.
So why is he
exactly.
boring? Because when his girlfriend says, you know, I've just been raped and my father's been murdered, I don't think I'm ready for marriage yet, now, this very second, he says, that's fine, we'll wait because I love
Yeah.
you. So
Yeah.
that's being a loser.
Yeah.
He says, my happiness depends on her happiness,
Yeah.
which as a sexual metaphor is the opposite of what Don Giovanni said. You know, I can't have pleasure if she doesn't have pleasure. He almost literally says, which is the opposite of the rape we start with.
Yeah.
And for that, he's been considered like a loser and a wimp for decades.
Yeah.
And I would like to, you know, reassess Don Ottavio as an alternative model of masculinity.
Yeah.
I'm interested that when we started this conversation, both of you, almost the first thing you said was, oh, but the score is so beautiful. How can we enjoy this and feel this today and keep all of what we've just discussed sort of in play?
I think Mozart's music always has room for sincerity and interpretation. And I think you can be taken with the music doesn't mean that you're with Don Giovanni. I mean, there's also a number of other characters whom you can identify with, and I think the music gives enough food to actually get situations that are human. I think that's the main thing with Mozart. It's so human, and you can explore these situations and be subtle about them.
Sometimes I have found when I'm working on something and trying to go for this really subtle, really human approach, somehow your politics in
Gets
it
lost.
actually get lost. And even when I watch recordings of Don Giovanni, and the points the audience laugh and the things they laugh at, you think, oh no, he still is a model for you.
And Elvira is a female hysteric often.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
Can we agree that Don Alvera is not
Yeah.
I hate hysterical Don Alveras. She probably was quite young, You know, he seduced her, married her out of her house, and dumped her after 3 days. So she was heartbroken and is looking after him. And she's quite brave because she went all the way and on her own, and she's determined to find him. But she's definitely not the kind of crazy, hysterical, funny. I'm sorry, I just don't buy that. I really like her too much for that. I grew up, I feel like I'm 90 years old now, but I grew up with the idea that the clever take on Don Giovanni, the kind of subtle, intelligent, haha, I'm going to be clever about this piece, was Donna Anna is actually in love with Don Giovanni.
I've seen productions where they do that,
still done. Yeah,
a lot. I mean, it seems to be the default at the moment.
It feels like a very male director gaze, which is like,
let's change it.
Yeah, which is, you know, it definitely needs some female directors dealing with this.
Especially in Mozart, if she's saying no, I think we could take no for an answer and believe what the female character is saying, which is very often not the case in opera. One single point of view perspective is always going to reduce.
Exactly.
I think what we need is a multiplicity of you know, multiplying the points of view and perspectives, and this is how we get to interesting takes on pieces.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about all the challenges, the complexities of addressing Don Giovanni, but ultimately it comes down to the facts of, Mariam, you know, can you be a feminist and direct this opera today?
Well, I wouldn't have accepted to direct Don Giovanni at Glyndebourne if I thought the answer was no.
And Isabel, do you think you can come to a place, is there an approach to the opera that would make it work for you and your brand of feminism?
For me, what I'm excited about your production is kind of that it's not, we don't just glamorize this female suffering that we see again on opera stages so much, and it's just, oh, look at the beautiful sad aria about how much she loves him and how much she's been hurt, and somehow finding the reality of an experience inside that if we are going to stage it. I think that's the only way you can do it. Otherwise we are somehow just, we're just sort of delighting in
Repeating.
And it's still about the beauty of the sound, and there is that, but there's got to be something layered in or added that can be found in the original piece, but I think too often it is actually just neglected. So right now I'm not sure I could reconcile it, but maybe Marianne will inspire me.
I'll try my best. No pressure.
Following on from her much-loved Don Pasquale, and most recently her brilliantly reimagined Turco in Italia, Mariam Clément directs Glyndebourne's brand new production of Don Giovanni. Can Mozart's Don still seduce a 21st century audience? Why not put it to the test?